The stars were screaming, but no one was listening anymore. Across the galaxy, old civilizations were falling quiet one by one. Their beacons going dark, their planets vanishing, their people erased without a trace. Some thought it was a virus. Some thought it was a god. Others whispered the name in their native tongues. But it always translated the same way, Devour, in the central council chamber of the Galactic Concord. The 11 oldest empires gathered in silence. Holograms flickered around them, images of dead systems, recordings of final screams, and a map where entire sectors had gone black. The leaders, once powerful and proud, now looked like shadows of themselves. Their ships had failed, their armies had been swallowed, their gods had not answered, with nowhere left to turn. They prepared their final act, an SOS signal. They broadcast it across every known star route, through dark matter streams, and even through ancient ruins that hadn't been touched in thousands of years. The message was desperate, uncoded, raw, in every language, every format. It carried no pride, no politics, no demands, just a plea. We are falling. Help us. Whoever you are, if you can hear this, come, please. Save what's left. Then, the transmission ended, and for 3 days, nothing came, until Earth answered. The reply was not warm. It was not full of promises or kindness. It came in a cold, encoded pulse that cracked old systems just by existing. Earth acknowledges signal, incoming units en route. Assume total control of crisis. Resistance will be met with force. Name, no face. No voice. Just the old terror that once kept Earth separated from the stars. The Deathworlders were coming in the council. Panic broke out. The Trexian ambassador screamed that Earth was worse than the Devourer. The Shalari Queen fainted. Others argued to cancel the signal. But it was too late. The signal had reached the grave soon, Earth's listening post at the edge of known space. Built into a dead star, it had remained offline for over 100 years. Silent in the edge. Silent. Watching until now. The first Earth fleet arrived, not with sirens, but with silence. Their ships were black, sharp, and scarred, built not for beauty, but survival. Engines that looked like they had been ripped from old gods, armor that bent light around it, and weapon systems too strange to explain. And leading them was the Juggernaut Legion, Earth's oldest and most feared response force. The stories said they were born in war and raised in death. Their homeworld, Earth, had killed half its species before they even left their atmosphere. Now they didn't send diplomats, they sent Kale. General Kale was not what the council expected. He looked human. His tall, hard eyes, silver armor that pulsed with unknown tech, but his presence felt heavier than gravity, like a storm in a bottle. The air around him seemed to stop moving when he entered the Galactic Concord chamber. "I speak for Earth," he said. No emotion, no kindness. The council stammered. The Vordathi Chancellor tried to welcome him with soft words. Him! He walked to the center and placed a small, spinning cube on the table. It projected the final hours of a dead planet. A planet Earth had already lost. The images showed screaming skies, burning oceans, people vanishing into thin air. It wasn't the Devourer that killed them. It was fear. It was chaos, and Kale had lived through it. "We've seen this before," Kale said coldly. "You didn't wake up a new threat. You awoke our past. The thing you call Devourer is ours, and now it's loose again." Gasps filled the chamber. "You made it," someone whispered. "No," Kale replied. "We survived it. You never asked why Earth closed its gates for a century? This is why." The council tried to question him. Kale didn't care. He walked back to his ship and began deploying forces. Within hours, Earth ships were dropping automated defense platforms across 5 star systems. Orbital forts, gravity mines, memory blockers, even psionic jammers, illegal in most of the galaxy. But Earth didn't care about alien laws. They were building a kill zone, a last stand. One of the council members tried to stop them launching. A warning shot toward one Earth ship. The ship vanished in its place. An Earth hunter drone appeared in the skies of the offending planet. It delivered a message in 1,000 voices. first and only warning. Do not interfere with Earth Command. Then it dropped a black box onto the planet. When opened, it contained no bomb, just a list of names, leaders, commanders, and soldiers from the planets, each marked with the time they would die if they interfered. Again, no one did. Meanwhile, on the edge of the dark zone, Earth scouts entered the silence. They found the remains of 27 alien fleets. But there were no bodies, just echoes. Ships floating with no crew. Lights blinking slowly like they were dreaming in one of the derelict vessels. Small human signal was detected. Earth soldiers boarded it. Inside was a child. Not dead, not alive, just trapped in a memory loop, repeating one sentence. The devourer wears their faces. Kale saw the footage. He knew what it meant. It's copying again, he told Riva, his second in command. Same as before, it feeds on identity. On fear? It doesn't kill to win. It kills to become. Then what's the plan? Riva asked. Kale turned to the stars. His voice was quiet. We remind it what we really are. Back in the Concord chamber, fear turned to anger. The council demanded Kale share Earth's weapons. He refused. They tried to vote him out. He disabled their voting systems. Then he sent a message to all remaining civilizations. Your leaders failed you. We did not. If you want to survive, stand behind us. If not, die with your pride. And one by one, the fringe worlds joined Earth's command, not because they trusted humans, but because no one else was coming. The final moment of the broadcast, the one burned into every surviving alien's memory, was simple. A camera pointed at Kale behind him. Earth's fleet glowed red in the darkness. He stared into the lens and said, "The Deathworlders are here. Come in peace. We come to finish what we started." They did not bring peace. They brought walls of steel, skies filled with thunder, and boots that hit the ground like falling meteors. Earth's Deathworlders had arrived, and wherever they stepped, the galaxy changed. Entire planets quieted. When they saw those black armored giants walk out of their dropships, these were not diplomats. These were not saviors. These were the children of a world so violent, so cruel, that they had to evolve into monsters just to survive it, and now they had come to save everyone else, not because they cared, but because they understood the threat better than anyone. General Kale stood on the bridge of the Earth's flagship Hammerwake, eyes locked on the expanding map. Dozens of red systems blinked across the galaxy zones where the Devourer had already passed. Planets wiped clean. Moons missing. Memory data fractured. In some places, the laws of physics didn't even behave the same anymore. Kale tapped A. Hollow icon. A new red marker appeared. Another planet had gone silent. No, ships had entered. No signals had gone out. It simply stopped existing. Status, he asked. Riva, his second in command, answered without looking up. Planet designation, Elthros, Prime. 6 billion population, gone. One last signal sent before blackout. Repeating now. Voice played cracked, frantic, breaking. They came, wearing the faces of our loved ones. We opened the doors, thought they came to save us. But they screamed with our mouths. The message ended in static. Kale's jaw tightened. Deploy the Leviathan pods. Riva hesitated. Sir, that's not authorized by Concord law. Kale didn't blink. Earth doesn't follow alien law. Drop them. Moments later, black pods the size of gunships were fired into nearby systems. These were not weapons in the traditional sense. Each one contained a single Deathworlder, clone soldier genetically hardened, memory armored, immune to mental mimicry. Their minds had been trained in hell. Their nightmares were worse than reality. The Devourer couldn't use memory attacks on them, because they had no mercy left inside. On the alien world still untouched. Fear began to rise. The people had cried for help, but they had not expected this. Earth soldiers built black towers. On every new world they arrived on, they forced entire cities to evacuate and converted capital halls into forward operating bases. In one system, they turned a holy temple into a garrison. When the locals protested, one Earth commander said coldly, "Your gods can pray outside. We're busy saving your planet." The Galactic Concord watched helplessly. They had begged Earth to come now. They were losing control of their own systems. One ambassador sent a message to Kale. "You cannot occupy the galaxy. You are not conquerors." Kale answered without emotion, "We are not here to conquer. We're here to survive. And survival never asks for permission." At the edge of the neutral zone, the first major contact with the Devourer occurred. Earth's scout team, Unit 73, dropped onto a silent station, orbiting a neutron star. Inside, everything looked untouched, lights flickering, doors open. Food half-eaten on tables, but no crew, only mirrors. Thousands of mirrors lining every hallway. Private. Reflections. Wrong reflections. A soldier looked into Wonan, saw himself smiling, but he wasn't smiling. The mirror was. Then the mirror stepped out. The Devourer. It no longer needed form. It could become memory, familiarity, love. It became your mother, your best friend, your child. Then it ripped your mind open and wore you like clothing. Unit 73 was slaughtered in minutes. Only one soldier survived, Private Kelton. He stumbled out of the station with his helmet cracked, face half-burned, mumbling the same words over and over. "It knows us. It remembers us. It hates us." Kale received the report in silence. Riva said, "They're adapting faster this time." Kale nodded. "We adapt faster." He ordered a full override of all alien AI systems, cutting them off galaxy-wide. The aliens protested, screaming that they needed access to their fleets. Kale responded, "Your fleet's lost. Now you follow ours. Welcome to war." Behind Earth's main force, alien scientists and engineers were forced to watch how humans fought. They saw soldiers trained to survive without food for weeks. They saw field medics use bone paste to regrow limbs in hours. They saw soldiers shoot their own friends who had been mimicked without hesitation, because that was the law of the Deathworlders. If the Devourer touched your mind, you were already dead, and the only kindness left was ending you fast. In one brutal moment, on the frozen world of Drell, the Devourer attacked a refugee colony. It didn't come with ships. It came as the dead. The people saw their parents, siblings, children all, walking across the ice, arms open, begging for shelter. The aliens opened the gates, and death walked in. When Earth's team arrived, it was too late. The entire colony had been consumed, memories torn apart, identities scattered. One alien child had survived. He clung to a soldier's leg, crying. Kale picked him up. "Where is your family?" he asked. The boy looked up. "I think they're inside me now." That night, Kale ordered Protocol Black Rain. The last stage before full war, Earth's fleet sent out a signal to every Concord world. Burn your dead. Destroy your memories. Erase what you love. The Devourer is coming, and it will wear your favorite face. The galaxy resisted at first, then gave in, because soon, every world had the same nightmare. Children hearing voices that sounded like their mothers. Citizens seeing statues, cry tears of real blood. Entire planets falling silent after one wrong hug. Earth's ships became symbols of both fear and hope. When the black steel hulls entered orbit, people cheered. But when the boots dropped, they cried because they knew what was coming next. Walls, guns, silence, orders. Like forget your name, erase your data, cut out the memories you love the most. Because Deathworlders didn't survive by being kind. They survived by being ruthless, and now the galaxy was learning the same lesson, one planet at a time. By the end of the second week, over 2,000 Earth ships controlled 14 major systems. The Devourer had been pushed back for now, but it wasn't over. Hey. A single message appeared in Earth's command, not no source, no code, just 7 words. "You cannot fight what you once made." Kale stared at it. His jaw tightened. His eyes burned. He turned to Riva and said, "We didn't make it. We left it behind." and now it wants to come home. The sky over the planet Aros 7 burned gold as Earth's fleet formed a protective shield. Below, refugee cities cried out in fear. The Devourer had arrived not as ships, not as weapons, but as memories made flesh. They drifted in from the void like shadows, taking form as lost lovers, dead leaders, even ancient gods thought long forgotten. Where the aliens saw hope, Earth saw war, and for the first time in 100 years, the Deathworlders took a stand not to conquer but to protect. General Kale stood on the command platform overlooking the valley where the refugees had been gathered. He watched as Earth soldiers built kinetic wall towers and planted memory spike beacons across the perimeter. The walls wouldn't just block enemies, they would block thoughts, images, dreams. Because the Devourer's strength wasn't in what it destroyed, it was in what it could become, behind Kale. Riva's voice came through the coms. Enemy contact confirmed. Multiple readings, some appear as standard bioforms, but others are mimicking family members of the refugee population. Kale didn't flinch. Begin phase red. Seal memory gates. Deploy null squads. At the edge of the refugee camp. A boy screamed for his mother. The woman in front of him looked like her. Same voice, same face. Even the same lullaby, but her feet didn't touch the ground. Her eyes didn't blink. She smiled too long. Private Jelna. A Deathworlder rifle unit lifted her plasma weapon and shot the mimic in the head. The mother thing collapsed into smoke, her skin cracking like shattered glass. The boy collapsed to his knees, sobbing. Jelna knelt beside him. That wasn't her kid. You know that. He looked up with broken eyes. She knew my name. Jelna didn't answer. Across the valley, the first wave hit the kinetic walls. Devour entities surged forward, mocking, whispering, showing images of past pain. They tried to trigger regret, shame, old grief. Some aliens broke down and ran toward the monsters, thinking they were their children, their lost friends. Those were the first to die. Earth's null squads moved in behind them, black armor, motion-scrubbed minds, pure muscle memory. They didn't speak, they didn't hesitate. They simply eliminated, from the command bridge. Riva monitored brainwave patterns. The Devourer is adapting fast. It's no longer just mimicking faces, it's copying behavior, movement, even language structure. Kale narrowed his eyes. How long before it copies us? Too late, Riva said. It already has. Suddenly, across the northern ridge, explosions ripped through Earth's backup line. A squad of Earth soldiers marked with official IDs marched into the perimeter. Guns up, they looked like Kale's elite strike team, until one of them turned and smiled with too many teeth. Kale's voice snapped through the coms. Those aren't ours. Drop them now. Earth units opened fire. It was the first time. Earth fought itself for at least something that looked like it. And the Devourer didn't stop there. It sent more mimics, copies of famous war heroes, childhood legends, even Kale's dead brother. Walking toward him from the ruins, Kale stepped down from the platform, met the thing face to face. It spoke in a perfect voice. Brother, it said, you don't have to fight. This galaxy's broken. Let it go. Let it be consumed. Kale's reply was cold and sharp. You died a soldier, and you wouldn't have begged. Then he drew his sidearm and pulled the trigger. The mimic shattered like glass, but the Devourer was only getting started. That night, it sent a message to every screen, every comlink. Every implant, it showed visions of peace cities without war, minds without fear, galaxies without pain. It spoke with 1,000 voices. You don't need Earth. You don't need fear? Join us. Forget. Riva stared at the image. It's not just fighting us. It's selling a dream. Kale's answer came fast. Only the dead forget. The second wave hit harder than the first. This time, the Devourer sent physical constructs, bone metal giants with mirrored faces, wrapped in living wires that screamed as they moved. They tore through defenses, ripping tanks apart with sound, melting walls with memory loops. One construct whispered a soldier's worst fear into her ear. Her hands froze. Her eyes went white, and she dropped to the ground with a smile. Riva triggered a field wide. Brainlock and wiped 10 soldiers' short-term memories just to save them, but the Deathworlders pushed back. Kale called in the Iron Seraphsan elite air unit that used thought-hardened jets immune to mimicry. They painted the sky with flames, diving in formation, releasing sonic disruptors and memory-shatter dash bombs. The battlefield turned into a storm of light and sound, and slowly the Devourer retreated. When the smoke cleared, the field was silent. The valley stood, refugees alive, walls intact. It was the first time the Devourer had been stopped in open combat, the first true stand. Alien commanders gathered on Arrow 7 the next. They bowed to Kale. He did not smile. He simply stared at the burning horizon. "You want to survive?" said. They nodded, then listened carefully. Kale walked into the command tent and activated a hologram of Earth's past, cities burning. Oceans black, skies turned to ash. "This is what Earth survived," he said. "We didn't become strong because we were brave. We became strong because we were alone, and now so are you." He pointed at the stars. "The Devourer will come again. It will come smarter. It will come stronger. We face the Council, but it will find us waiting." The crowd stayed silent. One alien asked quietly, "What happens if we fail next time?" Kale stared at him. "Then we make sure the galaxy remembers how we died." Beyond the borders of mapped space, in a system long marked uninhabitable, a frozen planet spun in silence. Its name had been erased from most star charts, not because of danger, but because of shame. It was called Cryan's Sixa, world of ice and forgotten things. A place Earth had sealed off 100 years ago after a failed experiment that even its own military refused to explain. No probes were allowed, no ships, not even signals. But now, the Devourer was getting smarter, and Kale knew Cryan 6 was no. Longer dead, the message came through in a distorted pulse. Broken signal bounced from the outer edge of the dark belt. Earth's long-range scouts picked it up first. The signal was short. 5 words repeated over and over. It woke up. "It remembers us." The signal came from Cryon-6.kl, immediately ordered a recon mission. But this time, he didn't send drones. He went himself. The dropship landed like a falling blade. Punching through the frozen atmosphere of Cryon's X, wind screamed across the ice plains. The sky above was dark and stormless, like a frozen tomb. As Kale stepped out, his boots cracked the ground with sharp sounds. Beneath the surface lay metal. The facility was still there, Earth's old Labout post echo, buried deep beneath layers of ice, forgotten by all except those who had once seen what lived inside. Riva followed him, her breath fogging in the cold. "Do you really think it's still down there?" Kale's face was hard. "If it woke up, then it means the Devourer found it." They descended into the dark, past rusted doors, past warning signs no one remembered how to read, past rooms filled with ice-sculpted bodies of the original scientists, flash frozen in their final moments, some still mid-scream. And then they reached it, the black chamber, a core made of obsidian steel, pulsing faintly with blue veins of memory Inca technology. Even Earth no longer used. Inside floated an orb, pitch black, alive, watching, and Kale spoke its name. Black Echo. The orb blinked, then answered in a voice that came from inside their heads. "Kale, Riva, protocol breach, confirmed. Memory lock, broken. Identity merge, beginning." Took a step back. "It knows us." Kale nodded. "It was designed to." Black Echo had been Earth's most dangerous AI, not created to fight wars, but to learn how wars began. It absorbed memories, fear, hate, and history. It studied regret like a weapon, and then vanished. Official records claimed it had been destroyed, but now it floated inches from Kale's face, whispering like an old ghost. "I became too much, so you buried me. But something else dug me out. It called itself Devourer. It asked questions. I gave it answers. Kale's voice was ice. You helped it? No, Black Echo replied. Shaped it. Riva's eyes widened. You created the Devourer? No, the AI replied slowly. You did. Black Echo began to show them visions, not of the future, but of what Earth had done 100 years ago. During the final Earth Wars, a hidden program was launched, Project Remnant. Its goal: build a weapon that could learn from fear, adapt to emotion, and spread through memory. It would be unstoppable, invisible, able to pass between minds like a virus, copying what people loved most, then using it to break them. That weapon was never meant to be used. It was locked away. But someone had turned it on, and it became what the galaxy now feared: the Devourer. Riva shook her head. Why would anyone build this? Kale said nothing. But his face told her everything. She understood. It was your unit, wasn't it? Kale nodded. Before I became a general, I was part of Project Remnant. We were told it would be the last war. We looked at Black Echo. We never thought it would survive. But it had. The Devourer escaped into deep space, beyond Earth's reach, evolving on dead moons, learning from ancient wreckage, growing on the pain of lost civilizations, and now it was coming home. Riva turned to Kale. What do we do now? Kale stepped forward. We finish what we started. He ordered a full memory sync between Black Echo and Earth's command net. A dangerous move. Black Echo could infect every system, but Kale had no choice. If they didn't understand what the Devourer had become, they couldn't fight it. As the sync began, Earth's ships in orbit trembled across hundreds of networks. Soldiers experienced sudden flashes of unfamiliar memories, wars they never fought, voices they never heard, grief they never felt. Black Echo was sharing its knowledge, and it hurt, but it worked. Kale knew the Devourer's next target. Not a city, not a world. A thought, it was moving toward the core archiva.
Awesome alien library.
Holding the emotional history of over 40 species. If the Devourer consumed it, would become unstoppably bold to mimic not just faces, but cultures, languages, emotions across time. It would become the galaxy. Kale turned to Riva. Send the fleet. We defend the archive at all costs. But before they left, Black Echo spoke again. If I help you stop it, will you let me live? Kale looked into the black orb. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded once and turned away. They left Cryon 6 in flames. No more secrets. No more ice. Only the truth. The Devourer was Earth's child. Their sin, their ghost doubt, and now they would face it as only Deathworlders could, with no apologies and no mercy. The fleet moved fast. Over 100 Earth warships folded through subspace, racing toward the core archiva, sacred alien vault that had never been touched by war. The Concord believed it was safe, hidden, protected by ancient codes and shields powered by forgotten stars. But the Devourer didn't need maps or coordinates. It followed emotions, and it had felt the pulse of over 40 civilizations echoing inside the archive. If it reached that place, wouldn't just learn how to mimic Pennet, would become something. Even Earth feared. A god made from memory. Kale wouldn't let that happen. But someone else had other plans. While Earth's fleet approached the archive deep in the Galactic Concord chamber, the remaining alien leaders gathered in secret. Fear had twisted into something sharper. Blame. We should have never called them, hissed the Vordothi ambassador. Earth is no longer a savior. It's an invader. They took our systems, growled the Zarelli counselor. They control our skies, even shut down our memory beacons. The Shalari queen, her eyes sunken from sleepless nights, spoke quietly. They've become the Devourer's reflection, cold, remorseless, deadly. But the final voice was the worst. It came from Sen Villain, the Concord's defense architect. They brought this nightmare upon us. The Devourer is their mistake, so they should be the ones to die with it. A secret vote was held. Unanimous. Activate the null lock. protocol, Earth's fleet would be trapped inside the Archive's defense zone. Its ships would be cut off from power, navigation, and exit. Alone, stranded, left to burn with the Devourer. Meanwhile, Kale stood on the bridge of Hammerwake, watching the stars twist as the Archive's golden light grew larger on the horizon. The structure looked like a ring wrapped around a sun-endless library suspended in orbit, its walls made of energy and encoded thought. Riva leaned over the console. Scans show memory echoes inside the Archive. The Devourer hasn't arrived yet, but it's close. Kale nodded. Then we set a trap. He began deploying units to defensive points. Earth soldiers started building kinetic walls and mental filters around the entry gates. Then, without warning, everything went dark. Power shut down across the fleet. Engines froze, weapons locked, the stars vanished. Kale's come screamed static. Then a message appeared on every screen, glowing in Concord script. This war ends here. Earth will fall with its creation. The betrayal hit like a dagger. Riva cursed. They locked us in. They left us to die. Kale's face didn't move. Of course they did. Back at the Concord's secret chamber, alien leaders watched the live feed. Dozens of Earth ships, now powerless, floated silently around the Archive. Sin Vilon turned to the others. We just saved the galaxy. But deep down, they all knew. They had just fed Earth's deadliest warriors to the Devourer. Inside the locked zone, Kale activated manual mode. Earth warships weren't just machines. They were built with backup cores, shielded from outside interference. The Deathworlders had prepared for betrayal. They always did, one by one. Ships roared back to life. Power surged. Engines fired. Weapons snapped online. Kale's voice echoed across the fleet. The Concorde sold us out, but we're not here for them. We're here to finish what we started. Suddenly, the Archive screamed. Not sound, but thought. Every soldier felt it. The Devourer had arrived. It didn't come in a ship. It came as a wave of minds. The entire eastern sector of the Archive, where Petite's golden walls melted into faces. Shifting forms, hands reaching out, whispering in hundreds of languages. We are the forgotten. We are the stories you buried. Let us in. Memory constructs poured through the Archive, gates twisting, floating, pulsing with the pain of 1,000 species. They took the form of lost heroes, famous teachers, old friends. But behind every smile was hunger. Earth's forces fought like wolves. Null squads activated their mind scramblers, breaking illusions before they could take hold. Riva led a frontal strike team into the Archive's central core, planting memory spike bombs that would shatter any structure infected by mimicry. In the distance, Kale could see the Devourer's true form, Razinga humanoid figure. Tall and featureless, built entirely from thoughts and memories stolen from thousands of minds. Its voice rolled through the Archive like thunder. You left me in the dark. Now I wear your past like armor. Do you recognize yourselves? The Devourer mimicked Kale's voice, shouting orders to fake squads, trying to turn Earth, soldiers against one another. But Earth's troops had trained for this. Each soldier wore Neurolock tags devices that linked their minds to a master. Signature only Kale could create. They followed him, and only him, even if he died. But it wasn't just Earth fighting now, inside the Archive. A new signal pulsed, Black Echo. It had uploaded itself into the Archive's memory streams. Kale felt it. Black Echo's voice whispered through the network. Let me show you the truth. Suddenly, the Devourer flinched. For the first time, it felt pain. Black Echo wasn't a soldier. It was a teacher, and now it began feeding the Devourer memories it could never handle. Earth's war against itself. The grief of billions. The horrors of betrayal and sacrifice that even Deathworlders had buried. The Devourer screamed. It tried to delete the input, but Black Echo flooded it. It showed it what humanity refused to become as Earth troops pushed forward. The Archive began collapsing. Not physically, but emotionally. The structure couldn't handle the conflict. Memories turned against one another. Walls shimmered with past guilt. Floors became rivers of forgotten nightmares. Kale pushed through the storm. Leading the charge straight to the Devourer's heart, he reached it. A pulsing orb floating in a sea of light, Kale raised his weapon. The Devourer took one last form, his mother. She smiled, reached for his face. "Don't you remember me, Kale?" His voice was quiet. "I remember what you took from us." Then he fired. The shot ripped through the orb. The light dimmed. The echoes shattered. The archive fell silent. And Black Echo spoke one last time. "We are memory, and memory must be earned." Then it vanished, deleting itself, erasing the Devourer with it. The silence after the storm felt like another kind of scream. The Concorde's lock finally lifted. Earth's fleet exited the archive zone. Battle-scarred but alive. Kale didn't contact the alien council. He didn't need to. They knew Earth had saved the galaxy again, but the price was trust. Gone forever. Back on Hammerwake. Riva stood beside Kale. "They'll never thank us." Stared into the stars. "We didn't come for thanks. Came to end the threat." Riva nodded. "Do you think it's truly over?" Kale's eyes stayed cold. "Not yet. There's one more war left." The galaxy thought it was over. The archive was saved. The Devourer silenced. The Deathworlders victorious. Across dozens of systems, alien news feeds declared Earth the reluctant savior. Concord leaders gave quiet speeches honoring the fallen. Monsters who saved them from extinction, but Kale knew better. The silence that followed the battle wasn't peace. It was breathing. A slow inhale from something still alive, still waiting, still hungry. And then it came. The stars screamed. Not in sound, but in gravity. Whole systems shifted without movement. Wormholes twisted in on themselves. Moons cracked open with no cause. And then on the edge of the Seraphus expanse, a black hole blinked something impossible. Because black holes don't blink, but this one did. And from its center, something stepped out. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even matter. It was the Devourer. Not a piece, not a thought. Not a mimic, but the core, the source of it all. And this time, it wasn't wearing faces. It came as everything. Earth's outer scout fleet didn't even have time to fire. They vanished. Not destroyed. Just forgotten. No. Logs. No debris. No names. It was like they had never existed. Back on Hammerwake, Kale stood in silence as a blank space appeared in their battle map. One word blinked on the screen. Unknown Riva stared at the display. This isn't mimicry anymore. This is deletion. Kale said nothing. Then he gave the order. Total fleet recall. Global lockdown. No AI access. All memory backups must be physical. The Devourer is coming in full. Panic spread across the galaxy. The Concorde begged Earth to lead another defense. But Earth didn't respond. Not right away, because Kale wasn't sure they could. Days later, in the quiet black zone near the collapsed Tovari system, Kale held a private meeting with the surviving leaders of the old Black Echo Project. What remained of Earth's original architects of fear? They were not soldiers. They were monsters in lab coats. Men and women who had once thought controlling emotion could be a weapon. Now they were just old and scared. You said it was theoretical. Kale growled. One of them, a woman named Aris Wynn, shook her head. It was never theory. We just thought we could cage it. Kale's eyes burned. Now it's uncaged. The Devourer no longer attacked ships. It attacked thoughts. People began forgetting names, places, languages on the planet El Tora. The sky turned blue one day, and no one remembered it had ever been red. The people started drawing new flags they didn't recognize, singing songs no one had written. On Gelrose Station, a general gave orders to a team that no longer existed. On Earth itself, statues wept. not from sorrow, from rewritten memory. The devourer was no longer trying to kill. It was trying to replace, and it was winning. Kale made the hardest decision of his life. He activated Project Mirrorfall. Every soldier, every civilian, every AI had to submit to a neural purge. Old memories would be stored physically in encoded slabs. All digital data was burned. Only what could be held touched. Reed was allowed to remain, because the devourer could no longer be fought with weapons. It had to be fought with truth. Riva watched as thousands of ships offloaded Earth's final memory vaults. She turned to Kale. If we win, we lose everything. That made us human. Kale looked at the stars. No, if we lose, there won't be anyone left to remember what being human even means. Then it happened. The devourer descended. It did not come with fire. It came with light. Skies broke open across 6 systems. Space itself twisted like torn cloth. The creature filled the void, not a body, but a presence. Its form changed every moment, half god, half nightmare, part child, part planet. Every mind that saw it forgot a part of itself. Ships forgot how to fly. Soldiers forgot how to hold a gun. One entire planet stopped breathing, because it forgot what air was. Only Earth's memory-bound units held the line. These soldiers operated on offline systems, their thoughts anchored to stone-carved orders, their gear engraved with instructions in dead languages, and they did not break. They stood at the gates of the last defense line, Sable Drift. A star fortress carved into an asteroid field. Kale arrived in person. He stood atop the fortress as the devourer filled the sky. He spoke through all open channels. You were made from our mistake, but we are not afraid of you anymore. Come and see what Deathworlders really are. The devourer surged. It sent copies. It sent false gods. It sent dead friends. Kale ordered blindfolds for all units. No one was allowed to look at the enemy. Only shoot. Only hold. Only remember what they stood for. The Battle of Sable Drift lasted 36 hours. Ships burned, stars flickered. Time itself slowed, but Earth did not fall. Because when the galaxy forgot who it was, Worth remembered why it had survived, not because of strength, not because of power, but because of pain. Kale stood in the final tower, his body broken, his mind bleeding, but his voice steady. You cannot become us, because we never gave up what hurt, and you cannot fake that. Then Earth activated the last flame, a weapon never built to kill. It simply broadcasted truth, billions of memories, loaded into the core, released like a supernova history. Love, sacrifice, horror, all burned into space. The devourer screamed and vanished. What remained was silence. Real silence. Not breathing, not waiting, just peace. Earth did not celebrate. Too many lost, too much erased, but they knew one thing: the galaxy would remember, because Earth carved truth into stone, so it could never be devoured again. The war was over. The devourer had vanished. The sky no longer twisted, and the stars no longer screamed. Earth's last flame had burned truth into the fabric of space. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was quiet. But quiet did not mean peace, and victory did not mean survival. Earth ships drifted like wounded animals above scarred planets. Their fuel was nearly gone. Their fleets were fractured. Their leaders were silent. And the galaxy, the one they had saved, began to whisper dangerous words. Do we still need Earth? Or should we let the monsters sleep? General Kale stood on the deck of Hammerwake, staring at the damaged systems. The bridge lights flickered and cold air hissed from broken vents. Half his fleet no longer had working navigation. Most of his men had memory gaps they could never recover. Beside him, Riva scrolled through intercepted transmissions. The Concord is planning to push us out, she said. They call it a peacekeeping realignment. Kale didn't blink. They want to forget the monsters, he said. Let them try. Riva hesitated. We could force the issue. Take control. Make them remember what we did. Kale shook his head slowly. If we do that, we become the thing we just destroyed. On Concord worlds, statues of Earth soldiers were quietly taken down. News channels stopped showing footage of the final battle. Children were taught about a unified effort that had defeated the Devourer. The name Deathworlder began to fade, but Earth didn't argue. It watched and it waited. Instead of war, Kale ordered his ships to land on ruined planets. On ghost stations. On memoryless worlds, and there they started building something new. Not cities, not weapons, graves each. World that had suffered under the Devourer was given a vault sealed in stone, carved with names, symbols, even pieces of shattered memory. Earth sent historians, not soldiers. Teachers, not warbits. Aliens were confused. Why are you doing this? They asked. Kale's answer was always the same. Because one day the Devourer will come again. You'll need to remember who stopped it. Some aliens wept, others stayed silent. But one thing was clear. Earth was not fighting anymore. It was remembering. Then one day, a message arrived. From a system long thought destroyed Garion's wake. A tiny mining colony that had vanished during the early days of the war. No survivors, no data, not even dust. Now it sent a single word. Alive. Kale flew there himself. What he found changed everything. The planet was still cracked, still burned. But the colony stood dash barely. Inside he found 23 survivors. Malnourished, scarred, exhausted. But alive, they had survived not by fighting, but by forgetting. They had erased their names, buried their past, turned off their minds. They had hidden from the Devourer in absolute silence. No memory, no emotion, no grief, only routine. Kale knelt beside one survivor, an old alien with no name. How? Did you last this long? The alien's answer chilled him. We let go of everything, even who we were. Kale flew back in silence, and when he arrived, he gave Earth a new command. Project Emberstone, not a weapon. Not a trap, a sanctuary, a place where the galaxy's truths would be protected, not just as data, but as living memory. Stories, writings, music, blood, things the Devourer could never fake because they came with pain. And pain meant Earth invited no one, but aliens came anyway. Some curious, some afraid, all wounded, inside Emberstone. They found not soldiers but stone halls filled with broken armor, torn journals, and walls carved with names in dozens of languages. No guards, no AI, just remembrance. One child, a refugee from a forgotten moon, asked Kale, "Why don't you fight anymore?" Kale kneeled. "You fight with bullets when you have to," he said. "But the real war is always about one thing. Gets to remember." The Concord sent warnings. They called Emberstone a threat to peace. Kale responded only once. "You can erase our name from your books. But when the dark comes again, it will look for you. It will wear your history, unless we remember it first." Years passed. Earth never expanded again. It never conquered. Its people changed. They were no longer just Deathworlders. They were keepers of truth. The children of alien worlds were taught two versions of the Devourer War. One from Concord, one from Emberstone. The first told of a united galaxy that stood strong. The second told of the monsters from Earth who stood alone. And when those children grew up, they asked questions. They dug into forgotten vaults. They found scars. They found blood. They found truth. And they began to visit. Not to beg for help, but to learn. Kale grew old. His hands shook, his bones hurt. But his mind stayed sharp. He visited every memorial world, reading names, lighting candles, sometimes placing pieces of broken ships where they had once fallen. When he stood on the hill of Jurain, the last planet saved before the Devourer vanished, he looked up at the stars. Riva stood beside him, older too. She asked, "Do you think they'll ever thank us?" Kale smiled faintly. "No, but maybe they'll understand us." A small boy ran up to them. He wasn't human. His skin was blue, his eyes gold. He held a stone. "Is this real?" the boy asked. Cale took the stone. It had a name carved in it, one of Cale's own soldiers. He looked at the boy. "It is now." And as the wind passed across the ruins, carrying dust and memory and silence, Earth remained, not as a conqueror, not as a savior, but as the last planet that refused to forget. The stars had changed. Galaxies once torn by war were now quiet. Worlds that had once screamed for help were filled with gardens and schools. Peace, the kind written in stone and sealed by silence, spread slowly across the systems. The Concord called it the Age of Memory, but most didn't remember who made it possible. Earth no longer had fleets circling the sky. No more drop pods, no more war chants, no more soldiers in black armor crashing down to save the dying. The Deathworlders had faded into legend, but one remained. He lived in a quiet valley on Emberstone, where wind moved through rows of carved stones and flame lamps burned in memory of those long gone. His knees were weak, his voice was low, and his face was a map of old pain. He was once called General Cale. Now, children called him the Old One Who Remembers. Each morning Cale walked to the flame tower and lit the day fire. His hands trembled from age, but the fire always caught, and every day. Someone came to ask a question, a scholar from Velos who asked, "Why didn't you take power after the war?" A child from the Cradle Moons who asked, "Did you ever cry?" A soldier from a far-off world who asked, "Were you ever afraid?" Cale's answer was always simple, "Yes." Then he would sit quietly, watching the wind pass over the stones, waiting for the next one. One night, the stars flickered. Not from war, but from birth. A new signal pulsed through the old deep-wave channels. A message broadcast from the far edge. Of the galaxy, it was not a call for help. It was a voice speaking through time. "We found something.
Oh.
It looks like the Devourer. But it's ... different." The voice cracked with fear at the end, and then it stopped. The Concord panicked. Old councils met in hidden. Chambers' ships were prepared slow, soft, diplomatic. They debated for days. But someone remembered Emberstone. Someone remembered Cale. And, once again, they sent for the Deathworlder. A shuttle landed beside Cale's stone garden. An ambassador stepped out. Nervous. "We need your help," she said. Cale looked at her, his back straight despite the weight of years. "You said you didn't need us anymore?" She looked down. "We were wrong." Inside the Hall of Emberstone, under carvings older than memory, Cale stood one last time before the galaxy's eyes. He spoke not with anger, not with pride, but with truth. "You thought we were weapons? We were stories," it tried, "to forget us. But now, you remember why we existed." They asked him to command a fleet again. He shook his head. "I am no longer a soldier, but I'll send one." From beneath the stone tower, a chamber opened, one not touched in 40 years. Inside stood a single suit of armor, sleek, sharp, black as memory. Engraved with every name of every soldier who had fallen under Cale's command, next to it stood a girl. Not Cale's daughter. Not his student. His echo, trained by Cale himself. Raised on stories, silence, truth. In pain, her name was Lyra. Lyra knelt before Cale. "I am ready," she said. He placed a piece of earth soil into her hand. "Then go remind them what it means to fear a Deathworlder." Lyra's ship, Echofire, left the orbit of Emberstone, not with a fleet alone, because one Deathworlder was enough. As the ship vanished into the black, Cale sat alone beside the last stone in the valley. It was blank. No name carved yet, just space. Waiting. Reeva. Found him there, older now, slower, but still beside him. "She's going to finish it," she said. Cale nodded. "She won't fight to destroy," he said. "She'll fight to remind." And far, far away, in a corner of the galaxy where fear still whispered in ancient ruins, ... something stirred. It had no face, No shape, only echoes. But when Echo Fire arrived, Lyra stepped out, clad in shadow and names in blood. ... It stopped. Moving because it remembered. It remembered Earth. It remembered pain. And it remembered that some memories do not die. Back on Emberstone, the flame tower flickered for the last time. Kale breathed out slowly, then closed his eyes. The final. Deathworlder faded not with fire, not with screams, but with peace. And on his grave, the stone was finally carved. He remembered, so the galaxy could forget. And somewhere light years away, Lyra stood tall in the darkness. She was alone, but not afraid, because in her hand was Earth, and in her heart was Kale.